So BET Awards, it wasn't the Hip Hop Award, it was the BET Awards.
Right.
Yeah, BET Awards. There was a DMX tribute that involved the Griselda homies, and Westside Gunn was on the red carpet prior to obviously going in for the performance and everything. And Tyler the Creator just recently dropped a dope tape with Drama.
It's a full-on project.
Full-on project. Yeah, right. Yeah,
I mean, he had 2 songs that are like over 8 minutes long. So.
Yeah, like
kind of switch up though.
Yeah, like I thoroughly enjoyed it from when I ran it one time, so I'm definitely gonna go back and revisit that. But Westside Gunn was being interviewed, and somebody asked him, "Did you know that Tyler the Creator said you inspired him to start rapping again?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, that's my homie, and we send records back and forth, email, and we vibe out in the studio. And the Alchemist was instrumental in us getting together, and they've really developed a bond and a relationship, as artists and as homies." So I got to thinking, with Westside Gunn and the Griselda crew, we know what they pretty much quote unquote represent on paper. The style of music they put out, some people will say it's nostalgic or whatever, reminds us of when we were kids, whatever. But we know it's a street rap, hip hop, lyrical, grimy production, etc. But Tyler to me is the polar opposite of that. But I think it's dope that they are, I guess, working together and both acknowledging each other. So I don't want to say Westside Gunn and the crew is necessarily crossing over, but it is kind of a crossover for them to be able to collab and, just openly be collaborators. I think that's dope. And my question to y'all is, am I looking too deep into that? Because I think Monumental is way too big, but I think it's dope that a Westside Gunn can give Tyler the Creator show love, and they could possibly start working together and be, more collaborative if they haven't already. I think they've already gotten together on a couple joints. But to me, for the culture, I think that's a dope moment. And I might be overstating this, but what do y'all think? Because I think it kind of bridges 2 different types of music and 2 different, I guess, genres within hip hop. I think it's actually dope. I enjoy it. Lone, I'll come to you first. Am I overstating that? Am I a little too hype about it? I think it's dope.
I mean, if you want to be hype about it, I think it's cool. I mean,
Insert Kawhi Leonard.
Did you guys see, real quick, did you guys see the NBA commentator who flashed to Kawhi when Paul George hit a shot and was like, "This and Kawhi goes crazy."
Oh yeah,
and he's
like yeah, I saw that up in the press box with his family though, chilling.
Yeah, just chilling.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
But but yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. It's cool that that I think the two that we see the artists as crossing each other. I don't know if we'll get anything out of it, and I mean,
I hope so.
I hate to be that person, but I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
I'm not surprised. It's cool.
No, I mean, like, I like Tyler because Tyler does what Tyler does.
Yeah.
I like Westside Gunn because he does what he does. And if they somehow cross paths,
and they have collab before.
Yeah. And if they do cross paths, I think it's great if it's good. You know what I mean? But Tyler's range of like what he can do is just monumental, if you will.
People forget that Tyler can really rap.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. I think that's the problem.
You remember the very first song he came out with, he was rapping.
Yonkers. The first song that was that was mainstream.
I'm talking about rapping though.
Big one, yeah.
Yeah, he was rapping.
And he can rap.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we all seen the Funk Flex freestyle that made him super uncomfortable.
Right, I uploaded just that clip to the YouTube page, and we still get comments every week. Probably about 20 comments a week.
Tyler is a different type of animal, and is in the same beast, like Kobe says. What's crazy is Westside Gunn is Tyler's elder, but Tyler has been in the game longer.
Yeah.
So in actuality, they both can actually learn from each other if we're talking about musically. But when you talk about their artistry, I think what Tyler meant by he made me want to rap again is his last couple albums have been concept albums.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler's have.
Very musical.
And when you listen to Westside Gunn and Griselda and them, I mean, their main focus is to spit, to introduce you to some fly stuff.
Yep.
You know, the fashion, the art, all of that type stuff, which is similar to what Tyler's doing. Because if you're talking about Tyler, people forget too that he actually does his own production on his videos. So all those visuals and stuff that you see, he's instrumental in that, and he's also behind the scenes doing like TV show work and stuff like that. So I would say they're all similar in the same pot. Like I would even put like a Childish Gambino in there too.
Okay.
Because of, even though the content is different, the artistry is the same per se.
They're
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lone.
Well, I guess what I was going to say is like, the thing about Tyler is just, he's so creative. Like, I mean, his name is perfect for him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's his name,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
the creator. But he's a part of the whole creative process in general. You know, and when you mentioned Donald Glover, I think it's very similar because he's very similar. He can act, he can produce,
You can sing.
sing, he can
Yeah.
rap, he can do all this stuff.
He
you
can
know.
play the piano.
Yeah.
You know, he can act in whiteface. You know, hello, hello.
That one threw me off.
Darius,
Shout out
Darius,
to Atlanta, the series. That's
It's just
Darius.
coming back eventually, so we're happy about that.
Would you like some ostrich?
ostrich egg.
Yeah, that right there, I was like, yeah, that boy different when I saw that.
But they're kind of in a league of their own.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah,
because they're not confined, and it's different from just like rappers that act too, because they're creating their own thing too. So I've got, you know, as the years have gone on, I've only got more and more respect for Tyler. Like I really
too.
like Tyler a lot. Like I just love everything he's a part of. I love his energy. I love his honesty, and his music's good. Like there's nothing to not like about
Can't
Tyler.
deny him, really.
that's it. He's undeniable. Like, and I know they've worked on records together before. It's just, I just thought it was dope to hear him say, both of them, to acknowledge each other openly like that. But Tyler's definitely in the flowers category. Like,
Doesn't he have an album
In
called
his Flower Boy.
Flower Boy. But he should get his flowers 100%.
It's solid too because it's not a gimmick. It's like,
Yeah, that's the big thing.
especially if you've been following Odd Future from the beginning, they've always been kind of that standalone, outlandish, free spirit type individual, like the whole clique.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and he has not sold himself out.
I took it for granted in the beginning. I'll keep it a buck. I was like, oh, here we go. Or I was definitely being an old head in relation to them. Like, I ain't trying to hear.
They've been hot since the beginning.
I'm talking about when Tyler first, when I first got on to Tyler, I was like, I don't know, we'll see. And I thought it was just a joke and a gimmick and he's clowning. But as I went and turned that off and started actually listening to the product, I'm like, fam is dope, like musically dope. Then I started seeing videos on YouTube with him producing and playing the keys, and you know, and then like Lone said, with the video directing and all that, I'm like, he just nice. And when you see it, you got to give it up. You know what I mean? So salute to him, man. Jay Moore, did you have any thoughts about Westside Gunn and Tyler pretty much bigging each other up?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's the walls have come down as far as, because at one point it was like, okay, if you were over here with Wu-Tang, you were not going to be over here showing love to these guys who were on the radio.
That's
if
what I'm
you were
talking
over
about.
here, you know. And the thing is, if you were on the radio, probably the people who were handling you is like, yo, don't talk to Rampage, the Last Boy Scout, or who. I'm not. That's just it's
Shout
a
out
real
to Rampage,
random.
by the way.
That's
now.
a real random because you know he was on the radio with the joint with Billy Lawrence. I know my old headedness is showing, but I just think now if people really can vibe with each other, then those walls are not there. You don't have so and so A&R turning down features because it won't be a good look or because of overexposure. I mean, Tyler had one of the dopest verses on the Pray for Paris album, which was Westside Gunn.
Yes.
My favorite Westside
When they
Gunn.
switched the beat up.
Yeah, so
Facts.
Where tone did they switch the tone?
yeah, it was. So you know, and the thing is, I wasn't like, you know, the whole Odd Future thing. At first, I couldn't get into it just because I remember because you know, this is where once again this is where being an old head kicks in, where somebody tried to compare to Wu-Tang. I was like, slow down, let's not do that, ladies and gentlemen. You know, talk to these young kids. I don't know if you want to talk about Earl
messed up my experience now.
Talking about how he is equivalent to somebody in the Wu-Tang Clan. We don't want to do that shit. You put too much pressure on these young people when you go ahead and, or just like it was the people we talked about on several shows ago where they tried to compare them to Outkast. I was like, don't do that to those young people. You know, they need
early for that.
They need to carve out their own lane and become their own people. And I think that's what's happening.
The thing with that is
now
they're not even the ones that's doing that. Though.
Exactly. That's why it's not fair.
Yeah.
So when I was able to just get, you know, because when it's a few years ago, like Tyler put out a record with Pusha T called Trouble on My Mind. And I just remember we used to run that at Coaches on a pretty regular basis, you know, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to give these guys a real chance as opposed to just seeing like there's a level of goofiness that I just couldn't get with. You know, I saw them on Adult Swim and I was like, okay, I think that's funny as far as like them doing sketch comedy. Yeah. But as far as me actually listening to their records, it didn't move me in that way. So now Tyler has my full on attention. You know what I'm saying? As far as somebody I can respect as an artist, as a lyricist, as somebody who can do anything. I don't care about any, and like you said, I liked how he called out the Grammys right after he won a Grammy.
Yeah.
You know, I think that you know, when he was, you know, had an animation project and he called out, where are the black cartoon characters? Like, I like that energy from somebody young and who, you know, and at this point, I don't know how young he really is. You know, he could be damn near in his 30s, but, you know, for me, that's young. You know, for someone who has that kind of energy and doesn't know that he's not supposed to say these things. And it was like, people are in such a creative space now. And the media landscape has changed to a place where, like, I don't have to hold my tongue. If you don't ever invite me to the Grammys again, I'm good. Yeah. If you don't ever give me another spot on Comedy Central or Cartoon Network, I'm good. I'm gonna find a way. I'll do direct to consumer. I think that's the energy I love so much about this younger generation.
Dave Chappelle gave him that key too.
Talk to him.
You don't
talk to him.
You know, for all the problems NBA YoungBoy has had, here's a dude who has #1 records, streams crazy, and he don't even put out records that can be put on the radio.
He can't because he locked up.
Well, that too. I mean, he has other problems, but you know, like he has essentially the career that, you know, and there are all these rappers who they're probably making as much money as any rapper back in the day who was on the radio and on TV every day, just because they have a focused and dedicated fan base who likes them because they are them. They don't pull any punches for anybody.
That's priceless.
And
that's priceless.
And 20 years ago, you'd have had to fit into some sort of niche marketing to where, okay, well, can we get them a deal with Nike, or can we get them in a Mountain Dew commercial?
You know what?
Like now, these kids have figured out the direct to consumer model. They don't care, and I think that's awesome.
What you say?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what? I agree with you on that too. But I actually think that the Odd Future machine would have worked back then. If you think about like Yo MTV Raps, I mean, they're looking for a group like that to go sit with and interview with. I mean, during the break we talked about Prince Paul.
Yeah,
I remember Stetsasonic being on Yo MTV Raps. They were somewhat different than a lot of the rap groups that were out back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, they weren't Odd Future different.
It was different,
but you think about De La Soul and that whole movement,
Native
Tongue, Moni Love, all of them. They were different than what was out. So I think Odd Future probably would have had a chance. But you did make a good point as far as sponsorship and things like that. A lot of sponsors would have been scared to touch something like that.
Yeah.
Because especially for all this wild stuff that Tyler says, you know.
Oh yeah,
he'd be on one.
If he'd have done that freestyle in '93,
it'd
have been a rap.
Gosh,
he'd have been on the cover of Vibe magazine.
Yeah, that would have been.
No, their forces at work would have made sure, because he'd have embarrassed somebody on the radio.
Yeah,
the radio has relationships with all these major record companies. These record companies have sponsorships they need to worry about to get people on the road. They'd have messed around and made sure, okay, that Tyler kid, get him out of here. And get somebody in here who will play ball.
You talking about back then, like tunnel flex, like You know what I'm talking about? Like, it wasn't, if he'd have done that and went on Flex back then, like you said, oh, it would have been crazy, bro. Because, you know, Flex was...
You clown.
Like I said, you can't do like this in the YouTube direct to consumer era. You can do wild stuff like that, but
Yeah.
like when you think about your only outlets for people to see your videos are MTV, BET, VH1, and your only outlets for people to hear your music are the radio.
Yeah.
There's no internet at that time. If they wanted, like, there are people, if they wanted to shut you down, it was a wrap.
Yeah,
and if you embarrass or make the DJ at the #1 station in the #1 market uncomfortable, they would get you out of here.
You youngins out there don't know nothing about that, being confined to 2 or 3 outlets to
It's
either see
different.
something or hear something. It's completely
The
different.
gatekeepers are not as. I mean, they're still there. Don't get me wrong, but
It ain't-
it's not as prevalent. So
Yeah, no, all good points, man. Y'all all made good points, and
Just think about there are people at major corporations, even though we're not this huge podcast, like, but you think about it, there are people who watch us on YouTube. There's an hour taken away from network TV every time somebody watches our show.
yep.
There's an hour taken away,
Yeah.
and now you multiply
Or listen to it.
or listen to
or
it.
listen. That's an hour taken away from terrestrial radio every time they listen to a. So they can say all these things. That's why they try to do all these partnerships, but they don't like the fact that it's direct to consumer. The fact that, like, you know, at one point, oh, it was a big deal if you had a TV show. We have a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to cut through any red tape or anything.
I mean, we got
have a radio
little,
show.
because
Little
we're on
bit.
the radio.
Yeah.
Besides,
you know,
that,
there's a couple things, but, you know, really, we still
Minor
get,
tweaks, though. We still got a
we
program.
still get to be us.
Yeah, we still got
That's
a
the key
program.
thing. And to be honest, we wouldn't have done it if we couldn't. So-
Talk to them.
Straight up.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure you join our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/newoldheads. You can also catch playback of all of our shows on any podcast app and youtube.com/newoldheadsnetwork. And go to newoldheads.com/community to join our Discord.